All right, this is an interview with Jeff Berry. Growing up with your dad in the funeral home, what kind of exposure did you have to funerals and funeral work?
Growing up as a kid, it was my father's funeral home, so the run of the funeral home was pretty much mine. I could go anywhere, and one of my early memories is actually being in the prep room with my dad when I was probably no more than 5 or 6 years old, and I actually can remember my grandfather embalming someone. So growing up, I pretty much could do anything and go anywhere that I wanted to go.
So, what then made you decide to become a funeral director, just seeing all of that taking place?
I think having become a fourth generation funeral director, uh, it's in your blood to say. But just the way that having witnessed how my father and my grandfather had ministered to folks and had taken care of their loved ones, I think that was a huge calling on my life, to be able to carry on what they started and to be able to help out folks at a very dark and very sad time in their lives.
So, where did you go to mortuary school?
I went to Gupton Jones College in Atlanta, Georgia,
Okay.
and started in 1992 and graduated in '93.
Okay. And did you serve your apprenticeship down there or here at Berry's?
I started my apprenticeship here at Berry Funeral Home.
Okay. Was that 2 year or 1 year?
It was a 2 year. 1 year accounted for my college when I was
Okay.
at Gupton, and then 1 year when I came back, finished that up.
Okay. What is something that you learned in mortuary school that you continue to use now?
I think there's so much that we learn in mortuary school, and at the time you think, why would I ever need this? But I think a lot of what we learn, even through the arts and the sciences, it continues with you for your entire career. You're going to need your accounting principles. You're going to need your the ability to look at a deceased through your restorative art eyes and be able to see what needs to be changed. Your psychology and sociology are very important in dealing with family. Your mortuary law is essential in keeping your funeral home running in an ethical way. So I think almost every aspect of mortuary college helps prepare you for your career.
Okay. So, how many years have you been in the funeral business now?
I have was born into the funeral business.
Well, I guess that's true.
40 some odd years ago, but actually working here, I started working when I was a senior in high school,
Okay.
and shortly after my father passed away. So I have been employed by the funeral home for 28 years, but can remember when I was 13, 14 years old coming up and going on flower runs
Yeah.
and helping out here in the summer.
So which positions have you had?
I have started with car washer and assistant on the flower van. I've started putting up tents with our maintenance folks, and I've worked my way into just as a funeral assistant. After coming back from mortuary college, I was a funeral director. Did not do a lot of embalming at that point, because the need and the demand was for me to actually start waiting on families. So I was a primary funeral arranger for a while, and then when our location manager retired in 2001, I took on the location manager position. And then with the acquisition of Stewart Enterprises, that allowed me to become a general manager over 3 funeral homes and 1 cemetery. So I served that capacity as a general manager for 1 year.
Okay. What is one or some of the biggest changes you've seen throughout all of your time in the funeral industry so far?
I think a lot of things have changed. I mean, just being able to look back and remember my uncle coming down from waiting on a family, and he, creating the contract, and just the price difference that you remember. The things have changed so much as far as cost is concerned. Pretty much has doubled
Yeah.
since 1987, 86. I think that has changed a lot. I think customers' expectations have changed. It's no longer just a very patterned or structured funeral service that most people want. They want to, and rightfully so, personalize the funeral, make it more personal to the deceased. This family that I waited on today wants to incorporate his career as a dairyman. And so I'm thinking very seriously about personalizing that through adding hay bales or a little toy tractor.
Yeah.
And that would have been unheard of, 20 some odd years ago.
Right.
It was the personalization has changed it a lot.
What qualities do you think is most important for a funeral director to have?
I think the most important quality for a funeral director to have is mercy. And by that I mean just the ability to sympathize with someone that has lost someone very dear to them, and to walk through them for 3 or 4 days or a week or however long that initial funeral practice, that funeral service goes, and to show them mercy, to show them patience, to show them courteous ways that you deal with them, and just come alongside them and love them, and just be very sympathetic to what they're going through.
If you could change or amend or introduce a funeral law, what is something based on your experience that you feel that needs to be different or addressed?
I've seen the laws change some through the years. A lot of it has to do with more contracts and the way the contracts are written. I think there was a lot of laws that went into effect that protected consumers' rights and their monies that they would entrust to us, their pre-needs. We have wanted to get the ability to allow our families to prearrange with us, and in doing so, be able to receive a discount pre-need. And currently, Tennessee is the only state that does not allow that discounting on a pre-need. I think that would encourage a lot of folks, if we could do that, to go ahead and protect that themselves for that time. And hopefully that will be something that eventually will change, but would offer them some incentive to go ahead and do that, and do so at a reduced rate before they would have to take care of that at need.
What do you think is the most exciting thing about the future of funeral service?
It's in constant change.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
That's true.
There's so much that has changed. The funeral customs have changed. The consumer has changed. The way we do things have changed. Some of it has changed for the good, and some of it, has definitely changed that makes you a little bit uncomfortable. Some of the new rules and regulations that we have to fall into areas that we're not used to as funeral directors thinking about on a daily basis. So the legalities of relationships and who has a right to make funeral arrangements. So those things have changed. But the exciting things that I think of would just be the way that we personalize funerals, the way that we conduct our funerals, and the way we try to make them more meaningful to that individual, instead of just a very similar service for Mr. Jones versus Mrs. Smith. It makes it more personalized to their likings and their life.
My last question for you is, what advice would you have for someone who's beginning a career in funeral service?
I think my advice to somebody that's getting into funeral service would be just to learn everything you can. Invest your time into learning all aspects, whether it be in the central care, your prep room facility, or whether or not it would be to shadow your office manager and to see what they do as far as the accounting and the actual running of the business. Shadow a funeral director that has some experience. Just learn all you can, because all those different aspects are going to make you a better funeral director. But as far as the families that we serve, I think my advice to a new person coming into the funeral service would be just to remember that that family has had a very significant loss, and that we're there to serve them. And so many times during the funeral service, you have one opportunity to get it right, and we need to strive each and every day to perfection. So many times families can come back 10, 15 years later and tell you things about that funeral service, good or bad, that is just ingrained in their memory. And we have the honor to be a starring role in that memory as funeral directors, and we should take that very seriously and reverently.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Jeff.
All right.